once again, I have to mention, I mentioned this before, Dan. You're influencing the way I coach, what I do. Especially I told you this the last time in the editing process. You hear the stuff again and again and again, and I've repackaged so much of our conversation in videos. For example, I've recently done a video on just some kettlebell exercises for martial arts, and then I mentioned this idea that you've mentioned, where it's like you either kettlebell training first and then your regular training, or your regular training first, then kettlebells, or mixed training.
Mixed, yeah.
Yes, and another thing that I've done is we've had a seminar with I think it was 17 participants, and we've built the seminar on this idea of the secret, and it went really well. We've had a few membership signups. It's just powerful stuff that you're teaching me, and I'm incredibly grateful to be able to really do this. This is just
You bet. Thank you.
so that you know. Then I'm having a lot of notes prepared again because I always
Okay.
want to make the most of our time. So you let me know what you want to focus on. For example, I have a reaction I really want your opinion on.
Sure.
I've seen some stuff, some strength training stuff with football players. And when I look at it, my eye is telling me, I don't know the merit behind these exercises. And maybe you, with your vast knowledge, can maybe help me out a little bit.
Okay. For clarity, soccer football or American football?
American football.
Oh, American football. Oh, well, okay. Then it's going to be different then.
Mm.
Okay. I'll do my best and I'll walk you through it as best I can.
Okay. So let me share my screen. I'm really looking forward to your feedback because I'm thinking maybe I'm on the wrong side of the spectrum and I have to really adjust my opinion on stuff, or maybe we're on the same page. I'm really looking forward. So I have this one going right now. Can you see?
All right. You don't need to go any farther. Okay.
Okay, okay. Just without the image, just the still image. What goes through your head?
Well, there's a phrase I use a lot. It's just because you can doesn't mean you should. And what happens, people are always so, there's a phrase I'm trying to use this phrase more and more often. There's an American television show called The Office,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I liked it a lot. And the last two seasons are not very good. And a reviewer said something that I'm going to tell you that I thought was genius. He says, a problem runs, here's how you know you're having a problem. When a new idea becomes central rather than a supplement. And so, what's going to make this American football player play American football better is probably going to the track and improving his speed, probably getting his Olympic lifts up, running some hills, practicing his fundamentals, getting a good front squat. And that's going to make him a much, much, much better American football player. But that's just, you're not going to sell, your gym won't sell anybody doing that. You won't. So what you need to do is put your foot up on a Bosu ball with a contralateral kettlebell and do this exercise.
Yes.
But in truth, all you're doing is, and the phrase I always use is more. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, listen, I'm just looking at this guy. Trust me on this, gentle listener. No matter what you try to do in life, if he takes it seriously, he will be better than you.
Hmm.
He will be better than you in anything you decide to do. If you
like
start,
Mm-hmm.
if you start at the same time, he would be better than you. One of the strangest things in my life is when I go into an NFL locker room, National Football League locker room, because almost universally I'm the biggest, fastest, strongest person around. except when I walk in there and I'm the weakest, slowest, smallest person.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you need to do, and I'm not ripping on his coach, I'm not ripping on the athlete. I'm just saying that this is all supplemental stuff that looks good in a video, but I can guarantee this is not what brought him. We have a phrase in American football: dance with the girl who brung you. And
Dance with the girl who
brung you. That's a Southern American phrase. If you go to a dance, do you know what a dance is, Gregory?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, you dance with the girl who brought you to the dance.
Who brought you? Okay.
So you dance with the girl who brung you. Okay, that's an Americanism. Okay, so when you're working with American football, you see these videos, and every 14-year-old boy falls in love with this stuff.
Yes,
because he thinks that this is the secret. But the secret is, a 200-kilo front squat, 150-kilo power clean, running a 10.5 meters.
Mm-hmm.
There's your secret.
So just these compound movements, right?
Mm-hmm.
The heavy lifts, and of course the work that you do on the field. And this is something that we talked about last time. Is you take guys like him,
mm-hmm.
who is in the top 1% of
higher than one,
incredibly genetically gifted. So, and we talked about it the last time, you can have this gentleman do anything you want. He'll always be top percent. Right?
If this guy trained the whole off season doing an hour of yoga every day, he'd be better than you.
Yeah.
If this guy did like Herschel Walker, famous American football player, he did push-ups, sit-ups, and sprints. That's all he did.
That's what's up.
And he was better than you because he is just flat out better. There's an American football player when he was 18 years old, could bench press 100 kilos for 10 reps.
That's crazy. Yeah.
At 18 years of age.
That's impressive.
And he also ran probably, he was a world-class sprinter if he wanted to be. Well, how do you teach that? Well, when you figure out how to teach that, you give me a phone call.
Yeah, you're a billionaire if you're able to teach that. And the other thing that it goes in the same league was Mike Tyson. He was able to bench press an insane amount of weight at the age of 14. So it's these genetic specimen, these gals and guys who are just taking it to the next level. So we're on the same page, I believe. So that's just, it looks good for Instagram. It looks good for a YouTube video. Mm-hmm. And, like we always say.
Let's get this off, okay?
Yep. You want to get it off? Okay, I'll stop.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Just please.
I'm not.
Dan, I know. Listen, us coaches, and I see this now on my YouTube channel. Just to bring it up, a small detour. The reactions that I'm doing on YouTube, they're going incredibly well right now, and I've dug into the science a little bit, and there is some scientific reason why people love seeing other people react to stuff. So for example, I've reacted to one of those crazy workouts that Jillian Michaels did, where she says we are now, I'm not joking, where she's saying we're now hinging at the waist and not at the hip, which means you go in a flexion of the spine with a ballistic exercise.
Terrible.
It's one of the stupidest things that you can do. So this video garnered about 220,000 views in 4 weeks. It's crazy what's happening on our channel right now. And I've reacted to another influencer. Her name is Caroline Gurvan, I think. And she has one kettlebell workout that sits at 1.4 million views. So when I give these reactions, I'm just giving my thoughts. I'm not disrespecting the coaches in question. I'm just giving my thoughts from my perspective. So now, if I'm asking you your perspective, and we know it's not about attacking this particular coach, just your perspective. These exercises, what are they?
Well, they're just, the word I would use, just more. I mean, I mean, I've got books in here and up back behind me in other languages with these hybrid movements where you do you snatch the barbell overhead and then step up onto a box with alternating legs. So as you snatch, you step up. Well, the amount of time you take to learn that movement, I could probably teach you 5 or 6 skills, 10 skills that would make you better at your sport. So it's like when it's like when I see fighters, guys who are trained to fight, learning all these exercises, I keep thinking, if you spent that time learning the counters to a chokehold, to an arm bar, to a pick, an ankle pick, the time you spent practicing countering would be far better than you jumping up and down off a Bosu ball, because there are no Bosu balls in the ring. There are no Bosu balls on the field of play. And the thing is too, they also don't show all the mistakes when the guys fall off it. And that's when...
Yeah. And just to jump in real quick, as if I was the coach, okay? So they're coming to my gym and they're telling me, Gregory, listen, here we have this dude, multi-million-dollar contract, so we want you to coach him. My first thought would be, I want to make sure that he doesn't get injured when I'm training with him, or else I'd be liable, because this is a multi-million-dollar asset that I am tampering with. So, exactly. So isn't this the idea of the coach to be as careful as possible and use, I love this, I think that's Americanism as well, the most bang for your buck exercise.
Most bang for your buck, yeah.
That the time that is spent it's not wasted. So I see we're on the same page.
You just summarized how I treat elites right there. Bang for the buck. Cost to benefit ratio, bang for the buck. So cost to benefit ratio is you look at every single lift, even the loads, and you say to yourself, is this lift worth, like, for example, that's why I don't like heavy Turkish get-ups. I don't see the benefit to the cost, because if you slip with a bell over your face, maybe you'll luck out and just hit your ribs with it. Now you're dealing with, at best, bruised ribs. So the cost to benefit doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And then bang for the buck, we were years ago, we were doing, during the track season, we were doing one exercise. It was called the exercise. It was a power snatch followed by an overhead squat. That was it.
Bomb and down, right? Well,
yeah, no, but not a squat snatch, but so what we were doing, we were doing the overhead squat. So big ballistic explosion.
Yeah, boom.
And then I'm asking you to knit everything and lock it down, go down and up, put the weight down. Well, the idea is when you throw the discus, you need to be very stable and very explosive. You need to be very long and very explosive. You need to be very patient. And when people would come by to see what we were doing, they'd always say, well, what else are you going to do? And I'm like, you literally flew 3 hours, rented a car, got a hotel room to see what I'm doing, and you think I'm going to hide something from you? This is what we do. And it would be like, it was mind-blowing for some of these very, very good coaches to see how little we were doing. But the idea was bang for the buck.
And these top elite coaches were expecting more, right?
A secret. So, they want to see the secret.
It's always the same, isn't it? It boils down to the simplest movements, or just a simple, like you said, the cost to benefit ratio, right? I don't want to get you hurt, but I also want to use the maximum, most bang for your buck, so that your time isn't wasted, and still we have to make sure that you don't hurt yourself. And so we're on the same page. I thought the same.
My one of my mentors, the late Rick Bojack, one time touched me on the chest here. He pushed me on the chest and he said, you can't get bored. And that changed my whole coaching career.
You can't get bored.
You. Okay, ready? You.
Yeah.
You can't get bored. Your athletes love the fact that they're winning competitions, they're getting better, they feel good, they throw good. You, Gregory, you are getting bored. They are not getting bored. In other words, very often the coach is the problem. I got to tell you from the heart, I have seen a lot of goblet squats, overhead squats, snatches, bench press, deadlifts. I've seen a lot of it. I get a new athlete, guess what? They're going to do overhead squat, front squat, bench press. Me, I can't get bored.
Mm-hmm.
They're not bored. My athletes aren't bored. I'm the one who gets bored doing the same thing because I've been seeing this since 1979.
Yes.
But
yes.
to you,
yes.
Gregory, you show up and you've never worked with me before. This is all brand new.
It's brand new. Oh, yes. And
so you're not bored. You're like, oh my God.
Wow, what is this?
Front squats. Coach, my wrist hurts. My ab wall hurts.
Yes.
Yeah. So do front squats work your abs? I don't know. How do your abs feel? They hurt. Well, they must be working then.
Yes.
And I can't be going, well, let's do them, staggered legged with chains to a bench with.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, just do the damn lift.
Do the lift, and don't make it any more complex than it already is.
Exactly.
And what you're saying is, I feel it with, but Gregory, when I start swinging, I feel my lower back. Well, yes, it's the weakest link in the chain, but is my technique safe? Yes, it looks great. So I have to do some more conditioning for my lower back? Probably. Okay, let's start the clean. Well, coach, it turns blue. Yes, it takes some time. The soft tissues take some time. So it's always, yes, I get where you're coming from. It's the same. The coach gets the same feedback all over and over again. But the athlete or the trainee, let's boil it even down, the trainee, the guy who's just coming in the gym, or she, they're getting this new feeling, this new sensation. And so I cannot get bored.
I've told athletes to eat vegetables for breakfast, eat vegetables at every single meal, including vegetables. And they look at me like I have said the craziest thing. I have never, oh my God, really? And I'll realize that I've probably said that same sentence to athletes a million times. It's certainly an exaggeration. But it sure feels like it.
Yeah, it sure feels like it.
And yet to this athlete, it's brand new.
Yeah.
Never heard it. And so one of the things you have to learn to do as a coach is say this. Okay, Gregory, I've probably said this 30,000 times, but I don't think I've said this to you.
Yeah.
And to me, if there is a secret phrase in coaching, that would be it. I know I've said 100 times, 1,000 times to close the door on the bathroom when you're taking a leak in my gym. But I mustn't have said it to you.
Yes.
I must have said a million times, wash your hands after you pee. But obviously I didn't say it to you.
Yes.
I want you to drink
so well.
I want you to drink water as your major beverage. And they'll look at you and I'll say, yes, water. Well, yes. What about hydration? Well, that's what water does.
So great. It's a phrase that works so many times. And, this happens to me as well as a coach, that I say something and I'm like, and we already looked at this, right? And the person's looking at me like, no. So then immediately my brain is telling me, well, you've said this, you've said it so many times that you think you've already told it to this person.
And you haven't.
Because it's so normal. So, if you do something so many times, it becomes so automatic.
Yeah.
And so
I'm doing a workshop this weekend. Oh, I thought I had it right here. I might. Yeah. So I'm doing a workshop this weekend on kettlebells. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I open this folder up, I have several cheat sheets that I use, and what they are, these are things I go through, and I start off with this. So Friday at 8 o'clock, I'm going to say, sitting on a whale fishing for minnows, which is a Polynesian phrase that I think, sitting on a whale fishing for minnows. Whale. Do you got a whale? A big. The
big fish. Yeah.
The big mammal, yeah.
Yep.
And minnows are tiny little fish like this.
Mm-hmm.
When I usually do workshops, people are always focusing on the minnows and missing the whales.
Yes.
How do you say whale in German?
Wal. It's almost the same word, yeah.
Yeah, Wal. And
just different pronunciation.
Hafish is shark, right?
Hafish. Yeah, hafish. Yeah, it's a shark. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and sardine or minnow would be?
Sardinia, yeah.
Okay,
it's the same.
So
yeah.
Sitting on a wall fishing for sardina. And what happens is people want the minnows of the workshop, and I'm trying to teach them the hinge and the squat. To me, those are the vols. Those are the whales.
If I may add something to this, and I got this from Precision Nutrition, it says it's the same sentence. It's the same meaning, but a different sentence. People are mowing the lawn while the house is on fire.
Okay, there you go. Same idea. Now, in nutrition, it would be more the house is on fire. In our world, you're just looking for the wrong stuff. So what we saw there is, and I'm not ripping on those guys. I'm just saying in the big picture of training, that kind of stuff is the minnows. So, if I have an athlete who weighs 100 kilos and can run an 11 flat 100 meters and front squat 200 kilos, the whales are taken care of.
Yeah.
For that athlete, we might want to look at maybe stickier gloves, find a different brand of gloves, because at his level, changing the tackiness of a glove might make a difference in a sport where you catch the ball.
Wow.
Maybe with that athlete, we want to look at their cleats, the bottom of a shoe.
Yep.
Those little nubs are called cleats. Maybe we want to play around with that. Maybe we want to play around with some different styles of things. I was at a workshop one time, and I knew the second I saw the hand go up, I knew I was in trouble. The guy asked me about coaching soccer football, and I said, I don't coach it. And he said, well, what would you do? And I said, I would do this, this, and this. And he goes, well, most of the sport is deceleration. And I wanted to punch the guy because I said, A, I told you straight up, I don't know shit about the sport. 2, I gave you some advice. And 3, you then pointed out I was wrong. To me, that is the industry in a nutshell. Trust me. If the German national team when do they play again, by the way? When do they play
again? I think, I'm not as focused on it right now, but I think, Switzerland just recently won against Turkey, I think it was, but the Germans, I don't know when they're playing.
Okay, so Germany is in a real, but if I coach the German national team and they all ran 11 flat 100 meters and front squatted 200 kilos, I would feel as a strength and conditioning coach, I turned over, I hate to say the head coach, but it ain't my fault if we lose. Ain't my fault.
And you've mentioned this, micromanagement does make sense if the macros are taken care of, right?
Yeah. It's
the big stuff. But it's just the same thing with when we take a look at nutrition, for example. When we talk to clients, it's like, these E numbers. I don't know if this is in the States as well. When you have a nutritional value with the food labels, then there's always these E numbers, emulgators, I think, and all the the small stuff in it. So people are talking about it, and it's like, listen, it has this E number 32 and E number 45 is linked to cancer and blah blah. And then I'm like, okay, so you're heavily focused on that small thing, and you complain about that small thing, and then you don't pick the veggies because they got the E numbers in it. Yet then a few seconds later, you walk into a sandwich shop and you pick up, or you walk at McDonald's and then you pick up the McChicken, right? So it's like, or take it even a step further, we're battling about how dangerous Coke Zero is, and we're not honing in on the fact that it's basically we're eating just too much. That's just what it is. We're eating too much of the stuff that, because our brains old school wired, and then we tend to hone in on stuff that makes us not want to stop. But we want to rather talk about Coke Zero. So it's the same thing. We're not focusing on the big stuff. And what I also see is the big stuff is, like we just recently talked about it, the big stuff is not spectacular. Okay, so you want me to do squats, press, and deadlifts, right? So it's the prowler, it's the squat, and it's the press. Yes. So what are we going to do next? Nothing. That's what we're going to do for the next 8 weeks. And believe me, it's going to give you the most bang for your buck.
The most bang for your buck. and you won't know yourself at the end of it. But it doesn't make it's not a 4-second, 10-second snip. So your modern audience, most of the people who listen to you probably already clicked off because we talk too much. They want 8 seconds, they want 10 seconds.
Yes.
And the truth is, but a guy like myself, I'm not a TikToker. I'm not what was it, Vine, these 8-second things.
Now TikTok is taking over, and Vine, this Vine thing died, and then these guys jumped on YouTube.
Right. And here's the thing though, I don't want to be an 8-second expert.
Oh, I liked the 8-second expert.
Yeah, I mean, I can do it, All right, you ready to time me?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Let me know when you're ready.
All right.
Let me know you're ready.
3, 2, 1.
Sleep every night, drink water, veggies and protein at every meal, push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry, go for a walk.
Wow, that was 6 seconds. That's what's up. That's a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
You're so right. You're so right.
I mean, and then what you can do with that is say, oh boy, I think I need to. No, it's like what I say when I work with somebody for the first time who's never done farmer walks or prowlers or sled pulls. It's like you are missing this huge area of training, ignoring it. I did find it interesting this morning to find an article in a magazine here in the States called Self, where it was interesting to look at the article because the young lady had a workout that had push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. Basically, I mean, it's right out of my things.
Great.
And it was good that we're finally moving in that direction, but it would have been nice for her to at least acknowledge, and she had the goblet squat in there. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
No
acknowledgement. John exercise. That's great. And my question would be then, with your experience as a strength coach, since we all know, or just people who are into this a little bit more, and yes, it's not about bashing the coach, but my question remains: how many coaches actually take their athletes or trainees through these type of workouts that are the most bang for your buck? What do you think is the ratio? And do you think that these guys, when the TV crew shows up, then they're like, oh, let's serve them some spicy stuff?
See, now, so exactly, you nailed it right there. You nailed it right there. We talk, and it's funny about. So when you die, you have a 2-minute video, okay, to show Saint Peter at the pearly gates, okay. Mm-hmm. You have one of two choices. Your worst enemy picks the 2 minutes, or you get to pick your 2 minutes.
Okay.
Which one are you going to show? Well, it's funny, when Men's Health did this big article on me one time at my home gym. And when the guy first got there, it's like, well, now, he kept expecting a show. And it took him 2 full days to understand that there is no show. And finally, it kind of got through him in about the second day that the article he was going to write is focusing on the foundations, the fundamentals, the basics. That's what makes my athletes do well. But the thing is, he kept wanting to do like some insane challenge, and it was like,
to get the headline. To get the headline, to make the article stand out. Dan John is now using this incredibly secret that no strength coach has ever exploited, and that's the reason why he succeeds.
Well, and here's the secret I use. There is no secret.
Yeah, I love this. It always boils down to this stuff. And
here's my secret. You show up every day, you get the work in, you sleep well, you come back, and you just you like building the Great Wall of China. Brick by brick by brick by brick. If you work long enough and hard enough, you're gonna have a pretty good Great Wall of China. And that and somebody asked me the other day, Ryan Krauser just destroyed the world record in the shot put. I mean, at that level, he added this much to the world record in the shot put. Wow. I mean, at that
level, that's crazy. That's impressive. Wow.
And people keep asking me about, what does he do that's secret? And I keep telling them, well, he started throwing when he was 8 years old. His father and his uncle were both collegiate athletes. His grandfather was a collegiate thrower. he has beautiful technique. His timing was perfect on the throw. And when he threw the world record, the second it went out of his hand, he knew, but so did everybody else watching the throw. It was
The perfect shot.
simple. There was nothing
Ah.
fancy in his throw at all. Everything was lined up. There was no wasted energy. I was watching a discus thrower the other day. The discus thrower is about 2 meters behind her normal throw. And yet when she throws her normal throw, when she finishes, everything's kind of quiet. All the energy goes into discus. Watching her at the Olympic trials, the discus goes off and she does all these extra spins and shakes and stuff. Her technique to a normal person's vision probably looks better when she's throwing poorer. But when she's really throwing far, it's so simple, it's so lovely, you miss it. Wow. So it's one of those things. It's I'm not a huge fan of them. I don't know the martial arts very well, but one of the things they talk about in every martial art, and I know that Bruce Lee said this, but he actually adapted it from many others. When you keep cutting away all the excess, mm-hmm. that simple thing that remains.
Yeah.
That's what it is. When you look at like the haiku poetry of Japan, where you cut away everything except the absolute essence, that style of calligraphy that they have, mm-hmm. where they just, mm-hmm. yeah. And then you see a frog on a lily pad, and it went, and the painter went, To me, there's something to be studied in there, because my job as a coach really is to whittle away. Whittle, does that translate? Whittle?
Yeah.
So to whittle away all the excess and get you to perform with the least amount. Actually, I want you to have the least amount of effort at the highest levels.
And that's what I'm keeping in mind when I'm now editing my YouTube videos. There's one phrase that's stuck in my mind that I've heard another YouTuber say. His name is Tomska, and he said, cut away the excess fat, trim away the fat. And when I go over the editing process again, I see I'm repeating myself so many times, but that's, I do not recognize this while filming. But in the editing process, this is where the job gets done. So I understand, okay, I've said this now 3 times. I got to cut it away because it's unnecessary. Yeah. And that's good stuff. So, and just one thing that I want to add is I've recently seen, because you've mentioned the simple lift or just the perfect throw, right? Which is, at the end of the day, it was a basic throw executed perfectly, right? So I like your thoughts on this. It just was very impressive to me. I've heard this podcast from Squat University, Dr. Aaron Horschig with Ed Cohn and Dr. Stuart McGill. I really recommend it. It was a 1-hour podcast.
Sure.
And these 3 guys were talking. And there was this one segment where Stuart McGill, he's like, Ed, you're one of the greatest powerlifters in the world. How many times did you have your perfect lift? And immediately as I was listening, I was driving and I expected him to say almost every time. Because he's one of the greatest, right? That's what and it wouldn't even have sounded arrogant if he would have said it, because he's one of the greatest, right? And he said, I've missed more than I can count, something like this. And then Stu was like, you see, that's the problem with the young powerlifters. Here you have a legend telling you that he missed more times than he can count, paraphrasing a little bit. And then you talk to the younger guys, they're like, ooh, my lifting technique's perfect.
Exactly.
The humility in it. And I apply this methodology, this idea now in my jerking, because when I'm doing doubles jerk, I'm still not satisfied with my technique. And even when I'm satisfied, I'm still not. You see, I'm just adding on top of it. And I think this humble spirit, this humble mindset is what keeps you improving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought I knew everything, and then I went up the next level. And that's the nice thing about being in a situation like we have here in the States, at least we had in track and field, is that every time you moved up a level, you got exposed to much, much better throwers. So I had beautiful technique. And then I moved up a level and I was like, well, okay, I have beautiful technique, but I'm 20 kilos too light. So I had to get those.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
now I'm 20 kilos heavier and I have this flaw in my technique and I'm losing by 5 meters. I got to fix that flaw. You fix that flaw, you move up again. Now I'm losing by 10 meters again or 5 meters again. And then you got to fix those flaws. And then it becomes tactical and strategic. It's always something new. And I like that. As you move up and up and up in elite sports, you begin to discover this. What is interesting, as you move higher and higher and higher, the love of the fundamentals and basics gets higher and higher too.
And my question for this, Dan, is what do you think percentage-wise was responsible that you were able to improve your training off the field or your training on the field? So like the lifting, the weights, or
so in what I call quadrant 3, I use the yin yang symbol. Okay.
mm-hmm.
And it's good. And I use it several ways. So give me a moment here. So in a perfect situation,
Mm-hmm.
you would have your beginning athlete. So you got a 15-year-old discus thrower, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I would expect a 15-year-old to probably be able to bench, I don't know, say bench 80 kilos, front squat 80 kilos, clean 80 kilos. And they would have a technique that matches that level of strength. So it's real easy to get stronger. So 2 years later, we can blow up. So now those numbers are 120, 120, 120.
Mm-hmm.
But if he maintains that beginner's technique, that elementary technique, we call that a flat tire. So he's got a small, so on the yin yang, he's got a big yin and a very tiny yang.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to build up his technique, it's strategy, tactics, emotional control, arousal control,
Wow,
tension control.
emotional control.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
And on the other hand, back in the 1950s and 60s, some of those throwers had absolutely beautiful techniques, but all they did was push-ups, sit-ups, and pull-ups. So they were a flat tire this way. So what you do in my world is what you need to do is build up. So you have an elementary technique with elementary strength levels. And as you get stronger, you get a little bit more technical. And then once you get a little bit stronger again, you even get even better technically. And then what you try to keep doing is build up the circle. So to me, that's so in my book, Now What? I have a tiny circle like this. And then I have a larger medium circle. And then I have a bigger circle with the yin yang symbol in each one of them. And to me, the way we grow an athlete out in track and field, by the way, this also works for body composition also,
Mm-hmm.
if you're working with somebody if you're working with an 18-year-old woman who wants to get in shape look a little bit better for a wedding, it's not very hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, she shows up.
That's easy. Yeah. It's easy.
Stop, take, no more soft drinks.
Yeah.
Water. If you just said no more, don't drink calories, and we're going to have you.
And go a little bit more for a walk. It's probably done.
Yeah. So don't drink calories, go for a walk. Okay.
Yeah.
So, here, we have a little circle here. 40 years later, she's put on 50, 60 kilos. We're going to have a little bit more nutritional intervention.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't had a vegetable since she was 18.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't had a glass of water in, 40 years. We're going to have to get her to lift weights, go for walks. We might need medical intervention with diabetes, high blood pressure. We might need a dentist to do some root canals because of all the sugar from all the soft drinks. We might need a sleep specialist to help with various sleep issues at night. So we're going to have a much bigger, you follow my point, a much,
Yes,
much bigger
much bigger
circle.
circle. Yes, that you
And
have.
so one of the mistakes I think we make, Gregory, and I think this is an important thing as a trainer, is that sometimes we come in with a sledgehammer with somebody who really needs just to go for a walk and drink more water. And sometimes we come in with a feather for somebody who needs medical, dental intervention. This person needs to get a lot of dental work done because they've got rotting teeth, because, and I think that this is where I think the art of coaching comes in, is applying the correct tool for the correct situation person.
Mm-hmm.
With this 18-year-old girl who wants to look a little bit better for this wedding, I mean, drink water, go for a walk. 2 sets of 8 in the goblet squat. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Give me some money. But for this other person, it's going to be, we might need a battery of doctors to help out.
And isn't it one of the most important factors or aspects of a good coach to understand when to refer out, when to understand, okay, listen, with the baggage that you have, so to speak, is you need somebody. This happened to us sometimes, and I've always had to intervene and ask this critical question. We have some of our clients are just, it's like they're on a roller coaster for so long that sometimes I'm like, listen, maybe psychotherapy, maybe a psychiatrist, because the way we talk about nutrition now goes and cuts so deep that this is not my scope of practice anymore. I'm just on the surface level. So now, if you probably need some deeper intervention, and then sometimes,
do you know my assessment?
No.
I'm going to give it to you real fast. It's called the 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment. Okay. Number 1, can you stand on 1 foot for 10 seconds? If you can't stand on 1 foot for 10 seconds, I won't work with you. I send you to, I have a medical doctor. Oh, by the way, here's another thing. I used to give you the phone number. Now I make the appointment for you because most people won't follow up. So if you can't stand on 1 foot for 10 seconds, according to some research, there is something wrong with you. We need to find out. Maybe you're just obese, but then you got to see a medical doctor anyway. But maybe it's MS, maybe it's Parkinson's disease. We should find out. Number 2. So 1, stand on 1 foot. 2 measurements. Measurement number 1, if you weigh over 135 kilos, I insist on you visit a medical doctor, a dentist, and an eye doctor. Because what we're going to tell this person to do is eat more vegetables. But if they have terrible teeth, they can't eat more vegetables. And the eye doctor also can see things like diabetes and high blood pressure. And so a good eye doctor, a good dentist, and then a medical doctor. I had one client come back after doing that, and he was on 7 prescriptions plus dental work. Well, how am I supposed to get the person to lose weight by doing 5 sets of 2?
It's impossible. Yeah.
Okay. The second measurement is height to waist. So your waistline should be at most half your height. So if you're 2 meters tall, you can have a 1 meter waistline. If it's over half, you are a body composition client. And then I have a little Venn diagram with 3 circles in it. 1 is body comp, 1 is mobility, and the other one is strength. Okay, so stand on 1 foot, 2 measurements, then 3 questions. Question number 1, how many pillows does it take for you to sleep comfortably at night? If it's more than 1, you are a mobility client.
Ooh, I like this.
So the reason I use that, and people argue, the people who argue with me the most on this are females. And they'll say, well, I do yoga. Well, you might do yoga, but you have other issues. Because if you need to have a pillow between your knees, a pillow, you're hugging another pillow because your shoulders hurt, you need.
I see.
Question number 2. do you eat colorful vegetables every day? And guess what? Every single person answers.
Yes.
Right. And I know they're lying.
Yes.
Question number
it's the same here.
Question
Same.
number 3, do you exercise for half an hour a day? What does everybody answer?
Yes.
Okay, so after those 2 questions, I lean in and say, well, good, because then you don't need me. I'm not
You're
going
safe.
to work. You're already doing it.
Yeah, you're done.
And then the truth comes out. Then they say, that's okay. I lied. I don't exercise that.
And you know what I believe, Dan, is that sometimes, and I've read this in a book, is that people are not obviously lying to your face. While there are some cases, some people have problem with their perception. It's like, yes, I've just eaten. I will remember this forever. One of our clients, when we started incorporating more fruits and veggies into his everyday meals, and we had this follow-up appointment, and he said, well, Gregory, just recently, it's going well with the fruits. I just recently had, it's late in the last couple of days, and his wife was present, and she said, the last time I made some fruits, just chopping up and, fruit salad, right? The last time I've done one of these was 3 weeks ago. And I'm 100% sure he didn't lie, but his perception and our perception of time is so skewed.
Yeah.
It just happened recently.
It's like when your mom asked you, did you do your homework? And you always say to mom, yes, I did. And every parent knows when you say to your child, did you do your homework? Yes, I did. Show it to me. Oh, I didn't get everything done. Yeah, show me. So, okay, so 1, stand on 1 foot, 2 measurements, 3 questions. 4 is a 2-minute plank. Now, I know Stu McGill recently made fun of it, but my thought is this, is if you can do a 2-minute plank, you're strong enough. That's not your issue. If you fail the 2-minute plank, you are a strength client. Okay, so, and the other 3 tests, if you pass that, the other I'm not gonna go through details. Standing long jump, a farmer walk, and those 2 test me as a coach, and then some time of get up and down off the ground. You just look at it, whatever. So I have, with the Venn diagram, I have 7 things. Most American males are combinations of mobility and body composition. They're called 2s in our language. So what's nice about that is when we work on their mobility, they sleep better, which helps with their body comp. Most women in America are not strong enough and they need body comp issues. We call them 4s. They want to sweat when they come in to train, but what they really need to do is mostly just get stronger. So what we do in our training is we get women to sweat as early as we can. We give them something to get them hot and sweaty early as we can. And I know this must sound terrible to normal people listening, but this is just the way you do it as a coach.
Yeah.
You get them hot and sweaty. And then after they're hot and sweaty and they're breathing hard, then you have them deadlift, pull up, press, whatever it is.
Yeah.
With men, they want to look good in the mirror. So between sets of hypertrophy movement, we do mobility. So you always give people what they want, but you also give them what they need.
Yes.
So my job as a coach
is great.
For example, and I say this all the time and people get a little mad at me, I never program bench press or arm work for American males because they will do bench press and arm work. So we always start with the Olympic lifts and squats, and then I give them free time where they bench press and do curls.
Yeah.
With females, I never do ab work or flexibility because they will do. I mean, I had a 400-meter girl one time. We had to do whatever it was. I think it was a 600-meter sprint, and then followed fairly quickly by a 400, and then she started puking on the infield. Well, puking is the best ab exercise I know. 30 minutes later, she was doing crunches on the infield so her abs would look good. Well, trust me, if you're a 400-meter runner, your abs look good.
Yeah.
Because the amount of lactic acid you bathe in every day. But so I never program stretching or ab work for females because they'll do it no matter what.
I see so many similarities in that case of, I've started shifting my philosophy and thinking, going for the burn. This is where I a little bit come from, not to the extreme, but a little bit. And because I got this from one of the greatest, or one of the most well-known personal trainers who has 7 businesses or 7 or 10 gyms all over every continent. And he said, people are just looking for an experience. That's one of the things. They need the experience. So what I want to give my clients is, I love what you said there. It's, I give them what they want and I give them what they need. So they want the experience. So my job as a coach is to make sure that they are, tempering a little bit with their limits, but not overdo it, because I don't want them to burn out. I don't want them to feel up, because we're working with people who never lifted any weights before.
Sure.
And but they want the experience, because that maybe kicks off some dopamines and some great signals in the brain that makes them want to come back, and they enjoy the process. But still, and that's one of the questions that I got on YouTube. It was like, but I was critiquing one of the workouts, and then they were like, yeah, but this trainer, the reason why he did it was this and that, and it's not very it doesn't put the trainer well on display, but he had to do it in that case because he was forced to, blah blah. And I was like, listen, a good coach will always, like what you said, will give you what you want, but also give you what you need. And maybe sometimes, we just had one of these clients maybe pull you back a little bit. If you're always going in the red zone, you eventually burn out. So, and
that's why I like this last Saturday, I lifted an Olympic lifting meet.
Yeah, I saw it on Insta. It's great.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm 64, still Olympic lifting, but what it does for me, you can't, at my age, I can't go into the red zone the week before a weightlifting meet. I'll have nothing on the platform. And the week after a weightlifting meet, I can't go into the red zone because I'm so damn sore. Okay. So for me, I like this idea of throwing things in, planning something, and it can be, for most people, they want to look good for a wedding or a vacation, but I like them to just say, okay, we're going to do, I like little challenges and workouts. Just every so often we'll have a challenge. Doesn't have to be crazy. Doesn't have, one of the ones, I have that one. I'm not a big fan of it. It's the 10,000 kettlebell swing challenge. Yeah, I did come up with it, but I don't tell anybody to do it. Having said that, though, if you, in the month of January, swing the kettlebell 10,000 times, I can guarantee when February comes around, you're going to be a different kind of trainer. I don't know what's going to be different, but you're going to be different.
Yeah.
Ideally better.
And, it's just the same thing that, putting those reps in. And, this is just a arbitrary number, the 10,000. Yes, and I get it. But the idea is just put the reps in. Put them in. And even with our workouts that Angie and I are doing, that we then offset to our clients, and not in the most high intensity form, but just we're cycling through 10 exercises. Snatch, clean and jerk, clean and press, swing, hard style swing, hand to hand swing, Turkish get up, strict press, rope, deadlift, windmills, maybe if you're an elite mover, a bent press, but goblet squats, it's lunges. That's it. It's not this huge, incredible ocean of 1,500 different exercises, even though, and that's the beauty and the curse of the kettlebell. You can do this. I just seen one of the coaches do it. I don't remember. I did it as well. The kettlebell's laying on the floor and they're toe tapping around it like it's a soccer ball. And they called it an exercise, right? So while it is cute, it's not most bang for your buck. Right? So getting the reps in, that's what it is. And one thing, Dan, you have inspired me, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this philosophy. I recently came up with this idea. If you are swinging a kettlebell, no matter whether it is a more kettlebell sport approach or whether it's the hard style, there you have acceleration coming from your posterior chain, right? A lot of force and velocity, power coming. So once the kettlebells afloat, and I heard it from Stuart McGill, and that's now I'm mixing it together why Pavel is emphasizing the key man tensing your abs. Because once the kettlebell is afloat, there are shear forces happening. So you want to build up tension in your anterior chain to really use it as a brake. So now I came up with the idea, you brace it to break it. You brace to break.
Okay.
And then I remembered you mentioning that you are conditioning your athletes in a reverse throw to train the brakes.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of like put it together, how this braking mechanism, right? It's not just, yes, the hinge is very important, but being able to tense your quads and your abdominals and your anterior chain to stop the movement, right? And to use additional safety for your spine is so necessary.
If you're throwing the javelin, hammer, shot, discus, it's not your impulse that makes it go fast. It's your braking that makes it go fast. When I stop myself is what makes the discus go far. If I try to throw the discus and I just keep going, all the energy is in me, not in the implement. So I teach the swing like I would teach a shot put, discus, or javelin throw. Is like put all the energy into it, let it go, catch it, and throw it back. Yeah. So we're saying the same exact thing. Yeah.
It's the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just incredible how these conversations, Dan. I'm consider myself a very lucky man, and a lot of our viewers are really enjoying this. I know this is big stuff to digest. This is not the 8-second expert video that you talked about, but this is the kind of stuff that helps me grow, and that I believe.
Do me a favor. Will you cut and paste that 8 seconds or my 8 seconds?
The 8-second expert.
Would you mind and post that, and I'll just put it somewhere. I'd love to share that. That would be hilarious.
Because it's so powerful. Are you a 8-second expert? This is so powerful. I'm always keep writing those things down. And just as on a final note, Dan, sure. I don't want to keep you too long, but just want to come back to this question because I cannot understand it. If we know that the big lifts and the basics and the fundamentals are what you need, right, to progress as an athlete or just in your body composition or whatever, why is it then that we see these crazy exercises, these crazy moves, and if we see them, do you think the reaction that we did in the beginning, do you think that this athlete is doing the big lifts?
Well, I'm almost sure he is, but again, every time I take over a program, one of the biggest problems I have is I can't sell this stuff. So I show up at a new school, 2004, I show up at a new school, and the coach before had turned everything into a kind of, we call it United States kumbaya, do whatever you feel like kind of thing.
Kumbaya, my lordy. Yes.
Yeah. And,
beautiful. Song.
I show up and I'm going to teach everybody how to tumble, Olympic lift, power lift, kettlebells. And the kids are all like, well, where's the arm work, man?
Where's the arm work, man?
And
it doesn't
guys
sell,
like me,
right? It doesn't sell.
Old farts like me, I don't sell well. I get it. I look at, somebody showed me this girl yesterday. She's got like 6 million followers on Instagram. Yeah, I can see why. She's smoking hot. Mm-hmm. And then you look at my ugly ass and you're like, I'm not a good looking dude, And I think that, that stuff, that jumping up and down on the Bosu balls, that I remember 12, 15 years ago, that one coach in Arizona had one athlete and their whole thing was to throw weights. They were weight throwers, like on the bench press, they would throw the weights and everything was, and it was like, and I would get hundreds of emails, literally hundreds of emails. What do you think about this top secret technique? And the guy wouldn't tell anybody about what it was. Well, I mean, probably a combination of anabolics and DNA. And, if you get with enough drugs and enough DNA, you can be a really, really good coach. But you'll notice most of your listeners don't even know who I'm talking about. And it just happens a lot. I mean, if you luck out if you luck out with your nonsense coaching program with a genetic freak, you know, people want to follow what you're doing. I
And
guarantee this. If I was coaching LeBron James, he's a pretty good little basketball player. The impact I would have on his athletic ability would be about zero.
yeah,
The
that's
same amount that any strength coach would have on him in his career right now. Maybe I might give him a little bit more longevity, but you know, coming down off of a rebound and stepping up and coming down on someone's heel would knock his ankle out anyway. It just, you know,
so.
it
If
just
I
doesn't.
if I'm just interject real quick, you say okay, because I want to understand this and wrap my head around it. You say the amount of, or let's say like the influence that you would have on LeBron James' athletic capabilities with your basic exercises would be close to zero, right? That's what you're saying. And yet you say we have the athlete who has to get stronger, to build up the yin yang, right?
Oh,
So,
don't think they're contradictory. If you have a superior athlete, a Usain Bolt, a LeBron James, the impact of the strength coaches is important. But once they get to a certain point in their career, it just
uh-huh.
doesn't matter
And
anymore.
and what kind of point do you think they reach their genetic potential to the fullest amount possible? Something like this. That kind of point.
Yeah, I mean, Usain Bolt runs a 9,700 meters. I
That's
mean,
Yeah,
you're gonna
genetic
go.
freaks.
I mean,
It's
you're gonna go. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna change in the weight room for him? You know, instead of 5 sets of two, 5 sets of one. Ain't gonna happen.
yes, 5 sets of 6.
So,
That's the
oh,
secret.
here's what we did: 5 sets of four. You know,
Oh, that's the reason. That's
and so sometimes you just have to remind yourself. And that's why I have such great respect here in the United States. We call them high school coaches. You know, some of the high school coaches I know, they will knock out 50, 60, 100 athletes a year who have been improved by their coaching. And to me, I study those guys and girls, the ones that take large groups of just kind of normal people
hmm
and have some traction on the way to improvement. I follow them. Frankly, I've worked with the NBA. I mean, I work with guys who are literally this tall, literally that tall. There's a picture of one of my friends. He's got his hands on me, and his head is on top of my head. He's leaning down on me like this. You know, how do you
Towering.
coach? How do you coach that? You don't. You're born that way. So I'm not. By the way, so you got to be careful. I'm not negating good training.
Yeah,
I'm just saying you
yeah.
have to be careful about the lessons you learn from the elites. Having said that, and this is the system we use in our school, is I ask you to adopt an underserved community. I work with people who are deaf and people who have MS. Taylor works with people with cystic fibrosis. Um, uh, some of my other people specialize with post-traumatic kidney issues, some other issues.
Hmm.
And here's what we're trying to do. If it works with someone with cystic fibrosis and it works with an athlete who makes $250 million a year, we can assume that it's going to work for everybody else too. The problem you run into is that we got this elite, well, not this athlete, but this athlete here to improve a little bit. Okay, that's great. Did it work over here with the patient with cystic fibrosis? No. Okay. Did it work with this elementary discus thrower? No. Then I'm going to say, okay, that it works with elites maybe, or it might have just
I
simply
get your
worked
point. I see your
because
point.
they had a day off. I mean, sometimes when you work with elite athletes, the mere fact that you had an easy day or just something new made them get better because they're so beat up all the time.
Wow. Oh, about beating up. Yes, that's what we are now practicing is Angie and I were now engaging in some sort of deloading because I've heard Ed Cohn in this great podcast. He said the reason why I was able to lift or to stay in the game is he said most people lift too heavy for too long,
Yeah.
right? So you gotta understand to put the brakes again, right? putting in those breaks and stop your ego. I mean, recently I've lifted with 212s, 212 kettlebells. And for me, I really had to tell my brain. You mentioned monkey brain the last time. I had to tell monkey brain, shut up and sit down. I'm using these 212s now. And while I was working out, they felt so light, but stop it, man. And I love what Stu McGill said. He said recovery is so important, because if you keep beating up, like you said, beating up your body, then the recovery is not catching up.
You might find this interesting. Two of my best friends in the business are Stuart McGill and Marty Gallagher, who coached Ed Cohen.
Yeah, very cool friends. I like to have them as well.
So when I'm talking about elite things, those are the first two people I often turn to. They're not working with 14-year-old boys. They're not working with, sometimes if you want to become a great strength coach, get involved with a fringe sport, a very small, unpopular sport. Because if you bring weightlifting into a small sport that's not very popular yet, you can have a massive impact. But here in the United States, you're not going to have any impact on track and field and American football. I don't care how great of a strength coach you are. You're going to practically have no impact on your teams, because your teams are already doing almost everything you can think of.
So overly saturated, right?
So find a sport that not very many people are doing, like, I don't know, become the strength coach for a windsurfing team. Become the strength coach for
badminton team.
Yeah, badminton. I love that sport you guys play in Europe. We do play a little bit here. You guys call it handball.
Handball. Yeah, genau. Yes.
But if I was to bring a handball team here to the United States and take it seriously, and we had to say, like, we decided to have a handball league, I could influence my handball team and actually have an impact on them.
Yeah.
But once every one of those handball guys makes 15 to 100,000, check that, 15 to 25 million dollars a year, the impact of me as a strength coach is going to disappear, because they're already doing all that stuff. Yeah.
That's that's what I'm seeing, as it's a great analogy to what I do now on YouTube with, we've just recently we've gotten this incredible amount of growth happening right now on YouTube. And I think one of the reasons are, like I mentioned, these reactions that I tapped into by accident. So now what I do and what I focus on is, to some degree, and I don't want to overly saturate this reaction thing, because then it's like, hey man, you're stealing content, and right, that's so easy to do. I always want to back up my reactions with, severe, thick content, stuff that you can dig through and say, oh, this guy actually knows what he talks about, and this dude knows how to work out, he knows how to lift. All right. So that's what I'm now doing a little bit in the kettlebell world on YouTube, because not many people are doing it. It's taking a very popular influencer workout,
okay,
and react to it and give my thoughts. And then, of course, sharing a little secret right here, adding some entertainment value. Yeah. Not just being dry cut, like, okay, this swing could be improved, but just smiling, laughing, and joking a little bit, and most of all, reacting to my old stuff. That's what I do as well. I've reacted to my old workouts where my form was terrible, and people loved it. They were like, wow, you actually are willing to put yourself on the table, your old technique, and laugh at it and have fun with it and even give some feedback. And I'm like, yeah, because it's a learning process. And, this is kind of like what I believe is one of the reasons probably why we're catching so much steam right now, because I'm open, very open to criticism. I'm very open to feedback, and I've recently thought about it. I gave a reaction to one of Mark Ripto from Starting Strength. He had a bit where he was saying the kettlebells are a fad, right? So I've reacted to it. I gave my thoughts on it. And did I catch everything right? Probably not. Did I maybe make some mistakes? Because maybe my understanding of strength training is not as accurate as body composition? Maybe yes. But you know what? Who cares? Because in the reaction, I said, guys, anybody out there who has some inputs to share, please share them in the comment section.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's what helps me grow. So that's just like being open-minded and not in that saturated field of trying to look good for everybody else, but more like, hey man, it's I want to help you, but I'm open to feedback.
Yeah. I agree. And what did Mark respond to you?
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
But one of the bigger channels, actually two bigger channels are reacting to the stuff that I've done.
Okay.
One of the channels was functional patterns. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Functional patterns. Naudi Aguilar is his name, I think. I've had some critical feedback on his exercises, kettlebell exercises, because they were these kind of kettlebell exercises that you've just witnessed before.
Okay.
Bosu ball stability stuff, And I'm always like, and I coined myself that way. I'm saying I'm the basics guy. I just believe in the basics. So they reacted, but not in a very friendly manner. But who cares? It's great. It's the algorithm loves if people are starting to comment. And just a small side note, Dan. What I'm now realizing, and maybe you've encountered this in your career as a strength coach as well. The sense of tribalism that people are engaging in. When you say something, and I'm very emphasizing the word critical, not negative, because negative would be, Dan, I don't like your nose.
Yeah.
I think your black shirt looks stupid on you. That's negative. That has nothing to do with educational value. But if I'm critical and saying, well, in your swing, in the swing, she's hyperextending the spine a little bit, which can be tricky. Microtrauma to the spine over and over again can be a problem. People go crazy. You're just jealous. That's what I'm encountering.
You'll see quite a bit of that. Now, CrossFit was that way. And that, of course, CrossFit's basically, it's a shadow of what it used to be. Ripeto's place starting strength used to be extremely tribal, but again, it's starting. There's an old phrase in political science: the revolution eats its young. And what you're beginning to see with some of the in kettlebells. Oh my God! In 2001. That people would finish their sentences with "the party is always right," and you don't see that nonsense anymore. The kettlebells were very tribal there for a while, but yeah, I think it is a product of, since we don't have, a lot of people don't have communities like churches or other forms of intentional community, that they found intentional community online.
Yes,
with a weightlifting style.
I like to exploit the time with you as much as possible.
Yeah.
So then, if you're open to do it again,
absolutely. Give me a couple of weeks. Let me get into July. Okay.
Get into July, and then we'll do it again. I have a lot of notes prepped already for the next one.
All right.
I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like it, consider subscribing if you want to see more kettlebell content. And if you're looking for a program that builds you up as a beginner to an advanced kettlebell trainee, and maybe you also look for some solid nutrition coaching, some basic stuff to help you get in shape and maybe lose weight, then check out 90 Days of Kettlebells. You'll find the link in the description, and we have a 14-day free trial included.